Hard Knocks, Cleveland Browns, Episode 1. Welcome to the WaitingForNextYear.com podcast. I'm Craig Lyndall. He's Dave Sterling.
We are in the heartland of America.
I'm so happy they skipped that altogether. The Heartland of America. Hardland. I don't know if you guys have all noticed that on social media, but that they put that giant banner up at Berea overlooking the practice fields.
I've heard of Ohio as the heart of it all, but I've never really called it the heartland.
Now it's the hard hat of it all.
Something.
Just trying too hard. Although I felt like, and we might as well dive right in, I felt like the opener to Hard Knocks was really, really lunch pail blue collaring it up a little bit.
A little bit, especially, look, these are guys, you're like, oh, what are they doing? Are they working at a steel mill? Or are they, going to clean some wind? Nope. It's, they're tearing down the LeBron banner.
Yeah. So they did. I thought they got all the miserable Cleveland stuff out of the way real quick.
Yeah, there was no real montage. And is that bad though, that everyone's to the point where everyone knows the Cleveland Browns are a joke? They didn't really need to explain it?
Well, but did we really have to go and see film of Tim Couch and Bottlegate and all the failed picks?
Yeah.
Or Kellen Winslow on the motorcycle. And
yeah,
I'm happy we didn't need all that.
That is good.
Let's just get in and get started. So before we dive into all the different things that happened in episode 1, what was your perception? I mean, we're coming from this place where the Browns have been deathly afraid of having this show produced about them for how long? Yeah. And here we are after episode 1, and I don't see any damage from it.
No, and I've always liked Hard Knocks. I've always watched it. Are we swearing on this one or not?
Sure.
I don't give a shit about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I watched every single episode last year. Like, it's just something to see the inner workings of a football team, to see the personalities of these guys, to see the dumb kid who's got to print stuff out and take it to people, to see the guy that somehow has a plate of mussels that he's eating. Like, to just see the behind the scenes of a football team is fascinating. And for that to be our team that you actually know something about is really cool to me. And yeah, I don't see what we were afraid of happening.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of NFL teams take it overall too seriously and cloak and dagger and try and pretend like there's some trade secrets, the secret sauce.
Right.
And like everybody knows it's mayo and ketchup mixed together. Like,
right.
What are we talking about?
Well, and last year, your 0-16 Browns, had they been given every single play that the offense was going to run, would they be able to have stopped any of them? Maybe one or two more.
It's funny, before we get back to the show, that was one of the, I think it was Ben Axelrod on Twitter, was like, yeah, my favorite criticism of Brown's coaching staff is that this is a team that should have won 3 games last year. It's like the Sashi defense. That team was good enough to win 3 games. Anyway, Hard Knocks.
Yes.
So the scene that everybody's talking about, and we won't bury the lead, we'll go straight there.
The guy eating the mussels.
No. And it's
Carl Nassib?
Not Carl Nassib giving financial advice,
okay,
although I love that too.
Okay, continue.
Todd Haley and the coaching staff sitting there, and Todd Haley basically saying, this team's too soft. We need to curb the number of days off. We need to get these guys on the practice field. If we're going to change the culture, we got to start by being harder on these guys and more demanding of these guys.
He said we have too much progress we need to make to take any time off.
And Hugh Jackson said, I'm sitting in this seat from my vantage point, et cetera, to Todd Haley, who used to be a head coach.
Yeah.
And has been in both seats before.
Yeah.
It didn't come off real well to me.
I'm thinking,
but at the same time, everybody's making a giant deal about it, and I don't think it's as big a deal as people are making.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is, and I promise I am not doing conspiracy theories here. I'm sure that was edited to look more tense than it was, because at the end, I mean, that's something that Hugh has to say to his guys, especially the new ones. And he explained his reasoning, and the guys the guys that were there, I personally thought there could have been a little more compromise. The running backs coach said, listen, instead of giving them days off, dress them, have them be here, I'll keep them out and make sure they don't have reps.
I'll lighten the load on them.
Right.
Yeah.
That seemed fine to me. That seemed like a good compromise. And I'm sure that something like that is going to happen. But the way it came off was Hugh went, no. And he explained why. He said, well, we don't want to have injuries. We don't want to do this. This is all, and I hate to use the buzzword, but I'm sure there is someone in the medical department that is using some type of statistical analysis and analytics to go, no, if you keep a person out once every blank number of days, the percentage chance that they'll have a major injury goes down X percent. And that's a calculated risk that the team is probably making. And you bring in a collection of quote unquote football guys to go, we need to work these guys harder. We're getting soft. I do appreciate that Hugh said, no, we're going to do it this way.
Here's the other thing. In your personal life, in your professional life, have you ever gotten advice or somebody suggested something and you didn't take it on the first time, but it's stuck in the back of your mind and you eventually implement it?
Right.
Like these are ongoing things. It's not like they said this in week 1, Hugh said no, and it didn't leak into the philosophy of the team on a going forward basis. Maybe not, but you've got to think that these things are all, it's a constantly changing chemistry.
Yeah. And I think I also seeing this insider stuff, how on earth did Hugh Jackson ever think he could be the offensive coordinator and the head coach at the same time?
Yeah, it's just hubris and ego.
But like every time you see Hugh, he's doing something. And every time you see Todd Haley in the background, he's talking to a quarterback. And how you expected poor Deshaun Kaiser, like, was he just kind of out there? Like, every scene where Todd Haley is in the background, he's talking to Tyrod Taylor or Baker Mayfield. Like, every scene, he's in the background.
And the Browns did have quarterback coaches and assistants and all these other things, so I don't want to make too big of a deal about it because I don't think it hurts them in training camp.
Yeah.
I don't think it hurts them during OTAs and training camp. I think it hurts them on game day. And that's where I'm expecting Todd Haley to make the most impact and free up Hugh Jackson the most.
Yeah, I would say that as much as it seemed like there was building friction between Hugh and Haley, I think they're on the same page.
I think so too.
And every boss has to make that statement, especially early, that they're the one in charge, and it's their ass on the line, not the other guys.
But I also think Todd Haley is the interim coach.
Oh yeah. If
anything happens and they need an interim coach, it's Todd Haley.
Yes.
All right. So something that I didn't like, I thought landed flat, that they were trying to make a big deal about, the quarterback RV.
Yeah, it ended up not being like the local media did the same.
Hey, guess what, Bake? You're not that funny.
Yeah.
You think you are, but you're not.
Well, especially like the RV dude's just trying to do his goddamn job. Just like stop looking at the camera like you're Jim fucking Halpert and like, oh, what is this guy talking about, the toilet? Oh boy, the toilet. It's like,
I guess we're gonna have a no crunching rule.
Yeah, and that segues though nicely into future Cleveland heartthrob.
I think we're gonna get on Baker Mayfield's list. I think we're gonna be on the list.
I hope so.
Go ahead.
Brogan Roback, heartthrob, Cleveland 4th string quarterback, in charge of the snacks, took initiative, went to the snack lady.
But even his, like, he was trying to be Mr. Comfortable. I'm going to fluff up the pillow. Like, stop trying to be funny. You're not funny.
I would say this. I think Baker Mayfield eventually will be the type of quarterback like an Aaron Rodgers who can have a personality and charisma.
Sure.
He is not that right now.
Nope.
He did not know that Bob Evans was a chain.
I thought he was joking. But he thinks he's much funnier.
Yes. And
then he actually is.
And then Tyrod Taylor.
He's football guy funny.
Yeah. Tyrod Taylor is just 100% business. He doesn't have time for your nonsense.
Yeah. And
so
he's quiet about it.
Yeah. And so you got then Drew Stanton, who just seems like an incredible douche, who you saw Any Given Sunday. There was that second string quarterback who didn't know where he was, like before you got to Willie Beeman, who got injured on the first play he was in and like who didn't know anything and was like, that's what Drew Stanton is at this point.
Well, and I think Drew Stanton's like 31 or 32 and they act like he's 47.
Right.
Which I think it's hysterical, but I don't know. It sounds like we're just harping on stuff.
The big deal about the RV though, it was pretty boring.
Yeah, it didn't land. It didn't land the way Baker Mayfield wanted it to, and it probably didn't land the way HBO wanted it to. But
my hidden gem scene was Myles Garrett and Willie McGinnis.
Yes.
Those little technique tips and him going, "Oh, you were working out with Bruce Smith, right? Is he helping you? Keep that up. Call me if you need." I love those past player, current player interactions. Those are so cool that a guy, Willie McGinnis, played with the Browns 2 years.
Yep.
So he's a Patriots legend.
He is.
He's a Browns former player. But for him to come in, and he was just working for the NFL Network, but this kind of brotherhood of, I played in the league, you're in the league, let me help you out, I know you're going to be a good player, that was really cool to see.
You know, and add these moves to your portfolio.
Yeah.
You've got this, and this. Now you just got to mix it up.
Yeah. Don't
be predictable. And that's pretty much what he was saying. And it was really cool. I enjoyed that part of it too. So now we get to Jarvis Landry, who's gonna come out. He was a star before he got to the Browns.
Yes.
Hard Knocks is going to elevate his star that much more. We saw every side of him. We saw the family man who doesn't like to go out.
Right.
We saw the guy who likes to lead by example, catching one-handed passes. We got
him.
The guy who never stops working out.
Bless him.
You bless him.
Every time I say bless him, I want to bless him back.
And we also got the guy who's willing to stand up and berate his entire position group for not practicing.
And I can see, and maybe I'm just typical lame dude who's never played football, but that was awesome to me. And the reason I thought that was awesome is not that he berated anybody, but because he made the specific claim of, that's what used to go on here. And that's why, in so many words, that's why the Cleveland Browns were the Cleveland Browns. And that doesn't live here anymore. That doesn't exist here anymore. And for him to go, okay, I came from somewhere else.
And that shit's contagious.
Yes. Yeah. From him to go somewhere else, someone who's been somewhere else to go, I've seen this happen. This is what happens. That's why the Browns were terrible. This is not going to happen here anymore because it is contagious. And you take the day off and then the other guys have to work harder and then they get really injured. And I thought it was great.
So devil's advocate.
Yes.
He's right.
Yes.
I loved it too. But I think that plays better and more effectively at us fans.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Who have some unbridled anger about the way things have gone. And I don't know how it plays with teammates. We'll say this. We'll find out here soon if it played any kind of role in the Corey Coleman stuff.
Yeah. Well, how many years has Landry been in the league?
I think this is his 5th because he was coming off his rookie deal or something.
But it's a young group of receivers.
Yes, it is.
So that I will say is something to, if he was in the linebacker room, that wouldn't go over very well.
Right, but how many days before Corey Coleman was cut? Or traded cut.
Well, and then I believe it was Antonio Callaway.
Yeah.
That they just left the camera on as he just kind of stared into the middle distance. I thought that was Corey Coleman. I can't tell. You know, when the thing about NFL players is you never see their face
with their helmets on is true. Like, and
they showed it in the first scene with Nick Chubb,
and we haven't had Corey Coleman around long enough where I actually know.
I loved the first scene with Baker getting a bunch of people coming up to him in the airport and stuff like that, and Nick Chubb standing there talking to people. They're like, "Oh, did you play football? Yeah, where? Georgia. Oh, what'd you play? Running back. Oh, like." Yeah.
Who are you going to play for? Browns.
Yeah. Which I'm sure Nick Chubb, knowing Cleveland, people came up to him.
Yes.
I am 100% sure of that because this is Cleveland. Brogan Roback got people that came up to him, I'm sure.
Well, but the problem is that I know Nick Chubb's name.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to pick him out of a
lineup. No, absolutely.
I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between him and maybe some linebacker.
Right.
At least not yet. Eventually you get to know these guys by their face too.
Well, and that's a partial segue from Jarvis Landry's talk. That segues to a guy that we know the face of Christian Kirksey.
Yes.
I also really liked his speech, and that where he said, go home and think about why you play football. Write it down on a piece of paper and put it near your bed or on your ceiling. And when you wake up, you remember why you play football. And when you go to bed, you remember why you play football. Whatever it is. He's like, it could be money. It could be getting out of the situation. It could be whatever. But remember why you're playing. That one I do think plays well with everybody. Young person, veteran. There's nobody offended or pissed off by that statement,
No, it's not controversial. He didn't swear every other word.
Right.
And I don't really care that Jarvis Landry was swearing and screaming and whatever else.
Well, it seems like the most used words around Berea is the F word. So,
but it is something that Joe Banner brought up on Twitter, where he was saying that in a lot of the locker rooms, including Dawkins and some of the people that he was involved with as a personnel person over the years, they wouldn't have had to talk like that and use the F-bomb every other word to make a point. And then he went and asked, well, how effective was it? We've got Corey Coleman gone, and we've got a guy getting picked up, cited, arrested, whatever you want to say, on Sunday night. So what's the impact of that statement?
Yeah, it's true. But it seems like everybody in the organization, top down, swears a lot. And I would say that, and maybe this is a sexist comment, any organization that's a bunch of dudes with no women around, there will be a lot of the F word.
Sure. No, I get it.
I work in a machine shop. There's a lot of the F word.
but even you pointed out the difference between Kirksey and Landry.
Kirksey seems like a professional. Landry seems more impassioned. I really, and it's been building for a while, not just because of the on the field stuff, but I think Kirksey, if the Browns can get a little bit better, can be a big star in the NFL. I think he's, you're on the Browns, you're not going to be that big of a star, but between him and Myles Garrett, you've got a couple of big stars that are also likable, marketable. They could be kind of the J.J. Watt level of personality, I think.
And I'm really looking forward. We haven't seen a lot from Demarius Randall. We haven't seen a lot from Denzel Ward. There are a lot.
They showed Ward once.
There are a lot of things that haven't been uncovered yet that I'm expecting to get plenty of airtime on HBO. So I'm really looking forward to the rest of the season. It's unbelievable, the production that they put together.
NFL Films, I've always been a fan of how they did things, how they shot things. Yeah, they put a lot into it. And the preview episode with Myles Garrett walking around with his shirt off, that dude is built. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, he's a different kind of human. There's a certain amount of genetics that just goes into this. Like, no matter how much you and I had practiced from age 2, we neither one of us we're ever going to be Myles Garrett. Like, they're just like, you can practice as much as you want. You're not going to be LeBron James.
You can lift as many weights as you want. You're not going to have that body.
I was never going to be able to dunk.
While we're just randomly shooting around subjects.
Yep.
How'd you feel about Carl Nassib's Wu-Tang Financial segment?
I loved the financial segment because it's I wonder how many people actually understand that, both in the audience and in that locker room.
Well, when he summed it up,
when you spend $10,000, you're spending $640,000.
Yep. And he's like, this is the only time you're going to have all this money. And you should do something with it before you find out that. And then his Instagram thing at the end, when he was saying if you spend 2 hours a day on Instagram, that's 1 month out of your year. And then somebody else went, well, what's wrong with that?
He's like, you're not getting better. You're not improving yourself.
Yeah. And also the plate of mussels. I don't know. Do they serve that every day?
That must have been a special day. Special, special day. It's
All right, hold on. I have a few more highlights that I kind of wrote down.
Okay.
Greg Williams is a crazy person, but he comes off better than he did last year.
Yes.
And I even like that he admitted it in his speech to the defense. I was an asshole last year.
Don't make me come out again.
Don't make me be that asshole again.
It's awful though too. It's like, you guys made me this way. He's like blaming everybody else for his own. Like, that doesn't fly, but it's okay.
Bucket hats. Why is this the team of the bucket hat this year?
They were like that last year. The bucket hat for me is Dwayne Bowe.
Yeah. And then RG3 took over that. But now they've all got the bucket hats now.
Yeah, I don't know. I like a bucket hat. I've never felt like I could pull it off, but I like a bucket hat.
So without putting you on the spot, what would you say is your kind of quote of the week from player, coach, anybody?
Well,
I can go first because I did put you on the spot.
Yeah, sure.
And mine's easy.
Bless.
Well, not just bless him, but I would have to go with no shit. I got a lozenge, bitch.
That's easily. HBO knew what they were doing by ending the episode with that. That's absolutely true. I don't know what my quote of the week was, but the one thing that we haven't talked about was the amount of coverage they gave to Hugh Jackson's dying family members.
Yeah.
And losing his mother.
I don't know that I want a camera on me when I find out my mother has died. I don't know. I don't think I want that.
I'm pretty sure I don't. But at the same time, I think it was a real, true human moment.
Oh, for sure.
As cheesy as it sounds, and as cheesy as a human as John Dorsey is, when he and
Jean-Baptiste.
That's
his last name. He's got a first name that I don't remember, but Jean-Baptiste
Peter. I think it's Peter. But when they walked in and they gave him that group hug, as cheesy as that was, like,
you know what? I think more than just the group hug, him coming in with all those guys and just going, "We're here for you. Anything you need." I do think there's a good relationship going on between Dorsey and Hugh,
I think so too.
Despite what everybody wants to pretend, like that Dorsey's going to fire Hugh and all that, and he may end up firing Hugh. I think they're on the same page. I think Hugh's happier with Dorsey here.
They're pulling in the same direction.
Yes.
Hugh needs to perform. John Dorsey can't perform for Hugh.
Right.
He can't do Hugh Jackson's job for him. But at least right now, they are on the same page. They are working together towards the common goal. Whether Hugh Jackson can do it with his new coaching staff, it's not up to John Dorsey other than to judge and help Jimmy Haslam make that decision.
Well, and it'll be exciting for me. Hopefully they will show discussions.
Oh, but to your point, they're not mutually exclusive.
That's true too. I'm hoping that we get a little insight in between the back and forth of Hugh and Dorsey when it comes to this Corey Coleman trade.
Yes.
And it looks like there's footage in Hugh's office of Corey Coleman, whether that was just a teaser that they don't actually have that footage, because they also showed footage of the Browns and the Giants that hasn't been played yet because it was last year.
But I think we're going to get Corey Coleman basically earning his ticket out of town.
Well, and I watched, something came up in my YouTube recommendations. It was when, now I don't remember who it was. It was when it was the Dolphins camp.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was former first round pick, got traded from the Dolphins. But, like, there was a bunch of rumors that he was going to get traded, so they showed a bunch of footage of him, like, practicing by himself, that wasn't around the team, anything like that. Oh, hold on, I have it written down here.
You got it in your notes?
Yes.
I think that we're going to learn something about our own media culture with this Corey Coleman thing too, because we've never had such an inside look at the Browns. I think there's going to be a whole bunch of context that might even render my post about my instant reaction to Corey Coleman basically being cut when he was traded for a 2020 7th round pick.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think this show is going to provide additional context that may even had me going, oh yeah, well, they had to get rid of him. They really not much of a choice.
Yeah.
He was never going to fit in. But my instant reaction was that the Browns didn't get any value for him, that there was no benefit in the timing with which they made this move. But I think there's lots of room for this show to show me that I was just flat out wrong when I get some additional context. And that doesn't make me an idiot for writing that first thing. It just means that we always have to remember what we don't know. And as the show shows us stuff that we wouldn't normally know, we need to remember that on a going forward basis.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing is, and it happens, and I promise this is not a, quote, fake news rant. Have you ever read about something in the paper that it was a situation you knew about?
Yes.
And you're like, oh, wait, that's not really what happened.
That's like 30% accurate.
Yeah, and you're like, I mean, that happens
all the time.
And you can't use it to be an apologist for the team, but...
Well, you can.
Well,
we're not going
my brother would make the joke when talking to my 90-year-old grandmother, where she would complain, she would listen to the news, and this was during the early 2000s in the Iraq War and stuff like that, and she would complain, well, Bush is doing this, and Bush is doing this, and my brother would say, I gotta believe Bush has more information than a 90-year-old woman in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. But I could be wrong. So it's like, there's obviously way more context to all this stuff.
Well, my grandmother did it with the OJ trial before she passed away. She watched every day of that trial because she didn't have anything else to do.
Right.
And she had all these opinions and whatever else. And even in a trial where two attorneys and a judge are presiding over the thing, you're not getting real reality. It's like stuff is admissible, other stuff is not admissible.
Right.
It's almost like a fake premise.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I found the name. This was when Vontae Davis was traded to the Colts from the Dolphins. And so it was him.
Which was a big deal.
Yeah. It was him working out by himself. And then finally you see the interaction of the coaches and the GM. Hey, the Colts approached us about Vontae Davis. They offered a 5th and a 6th. Then they came up to a 3rd. Now it's a 2nd. I'm trying to get them to throw something in with that 2nd. And then the next day they're like, okay, let's take that 2nd. And then you see the meeting with the head coach and Vontae Davis. And he's devastated. And it's like, he's like, well, shoot, what do I do? And he wants to call his grandma and talk to her about it and tell her and kind of get some help coping with it. Mm-hmm. And then the coach goes, well, you should give a call to Indy because I guess there's a storm coming and they want to fly you up there before this storm gets in. And then they just show the footage of the equipment guy pulling his name off the thing, throwing his stuff in a box and taping it up. And it's like, oh, this is a harsh thing that when they say it's a business, it's a business. And that's one thing I will say. I haven't unfollowed Corey Coleman on any social media yet, but him saying, like, I think the one thing he said was when you love something so much that you don't care that they broke your heart or something. I think he genuinely liked his teammates, liked being on the Browns, and for him to get traded was probably a big shock to him and probably an upsetting moment for him, especially when you saw your NFL value just got shown.
Well, and it also just goes to show, and this is something that I've been thinking a lot about, when these players come in, whether they were drafted here, they were signed as free agents, or however they arrive in Cleveland, in their perspective is so much different. We've seen rookies get washed out. We've seen rookies get traded. We've seen what they did to Trent Richardson and what Trent Richardson's career turned out to be.
Right.
That's top of mind for us. We've got at least 25 years of history with this Browns team that they have absolutely no concept for, let alone the NFL experience of watching Kellen Winslow, Trent Richardson, all these different things happen. This show once again reinforces the difference between what the players feel about the brown and orange versus what we feel about it and our sense of history versus their sense of history. And it's just, men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Right.
Fans are from Mars and players are from Venus.
Right. It's very interesting, and that's why I like any chance to get in this behind the scenes look.
Yeah.
To really see these guys as people. And because we have no context of that, everyone makes the analogies of, well, if this happened in my workplace, et cetera, et cetera. Generally that happens with discipline stuff. But the thing that doesn't happen is your insurance agency doesn't trade for another hotshot agent from another insurance agency.
No.
You can maybe try to hire one of them, but like no one would come in and your brother just says, hey, we traded you to State Farm.
No.
You're now Jake from State Farm.
Well, and to take it to a different spot, when people talk about the NBA, they're like, nobody tells you where you can go be an accountant.
Right.
Why should he have to go work in Milwaukee? I'm like, it's not the same. Yeah. It's not the same thing because you can get an accounting job anywhere. And, you do get tens of millions of dollars if you're one of the top players. Like,
right.
It is a give and take. And
there are some things that there are parallels for, and there are some things that there are no parallels for.
Let's not compare the union that runs the local auto workers to the NFL Players Association.
Right.
Could we just not do that?
Right.
All right. Anything else that we forgot about that we need to talk about before we wrap up? We're just over a half hour.
Well, what do you think?
We probably shouldn't podcast as long as the show was.
Yes, it has to be more.
As we saw Colin Cowherd spending 7 hours on it today.
So over under on what week Brogan Roback becomes the starting quarterback.
Okay. Good joke. I'm not answering that.
No. Okay. Should the Cleveland Browns sell in the team shop the John Dorsey uniform of the awful sweatshirt, awful pants, awful hat, and the new Nike shoes that just came out on Twitter? Should they sell the whole package and make sure that whatever size you order, they ship you 2 sizes too big?
Let's just say I know what I'm going for for Halloween this year. I'm gonna be. The sweatshirt's kind of growing on me a little bit. Although
I like the sweatshirt.
It's weird to wear a sweatshirt with shorts.
Yes, it's also weird that they're all wearing long sleeve stuff and it's really hot. But
yes,
yeah, that's all I had. We can go with Brogan's Heroes, Bulk Brogan, week 9. Do you think? And one other observation that was pointed out by my brother-in-law was any impassioned speech such as Jarvis Landry gave is knocked down a few notches when you're giving it in orange sandals.
Yes. Mandals.
Yes.
No, those were some. They looked like they had some bling on them too.
Yeah.
They were really.
Bottom line, if you didn't watch it, the first episode is on YouTube and you should watch it. And if you kind of bide your time right, you can probably sign up for the free trial of HBO Now and watch.
And lastly,
and not have to pay.
If you're one of those overly serious fans who thinks that this is ruining the Browns' chances because it's giving away some trade secrets,
F you.
Shut up.
Yeah. This is awesome. I think it is awesome.
This team, the NFL, it's supposed to be entertaining. It's been an entertainment vacuum.
Yes.
For 2 years now.
That's the thing. Is last year was just sucky to watch.
It was so sucky to watch that I couldn't even bring myself to watch it. It was the first time I skipped second halves and skipped games altogether.
Yeah. And this year I'm excited for preseason because I'm excited to see Baker Mayfield play. I'm excited, to see Nick Chubb play. I'm excited to see
Denzel
Ward. Actually,
I'm hoping Antonio Callaway can get back and return punts for us.
Right. So, yeah, let's enjoy it. It's not every day the NFL Films crew shows up. And you're not going to be watching the Browns Super Bowl movie this year. So let's enjoy this one.
Yes. All right. I think that'll do it. That's episode 1 of Hard Knocks Cleveland Browns edition. We're going to do every single episode this season. So thanks for listening. Tell everybody that we're doing it. Hope you enjoy the show. Hope you enjoy this show and Hard Knocks itself.
And one last thing. I don't know if our friend Jamie Mecklenburg is listening or not.
Of course he is.
But I am currently sitting in Craig's car, which has been backed into a parking spot.
It's true. I was waiting for Dave. I decided I wanted to keep an eye out. So I backed into a parking spot. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. It's been the waitingfornextyear.com podcast.